What more is there to say about the Panthers this season? This game against Tampa Bay had pretty much everything that you could think of in a football game. The Panthers had the momentum. They were up decently big in the first quarter, but of course, everybody knows that once Brady gets the ball, once Tampa Bay gets a chance to sustain some kind of drive or two and starts getting into a cadence or a rhythm, things are probably going to shift toward their favor, and that's exactly what happened here. What I will say, though, is that I think Sam Darnold has really proven himself as a starting quarterback. I don't know if he's the guy long term. I think that we should feel pretty lucky that he's come around and he's had some really accurate passes over the course of the past few games. Even today, really some dimes that he dropped in for touchdowns. Even though the run game struggled a good bit for the majority of this matchup, it did start to establish itself a little bit later in the game, especially when we were sort of in desperation mode trying to make something happen. But it just sucks that this is the way the season comes to an end, but it's kind of nice to feel something again as a Panthers fan. During the Matt Rule years, especially last season, even the beginning of this season, I kind of didn't care. And I'm a longtime Panthers fan. I just didn't care what was going on because I didn't believe in Matt Rule. I didn't believe what he had brought to the table. The team looked completely disinterested. There wasn't really any sort of meshing happening among the teammates. And the organization as a whole felt like it was completely crumbling. As a fan, I just didn't care anymore. And I thought that if that doesn't send a message to David Tepper that fans don't care, that don't want to be there, that we just don't even really want to watch this on TV anymore because why are we going to waste our Sundays on this? Then something needed to happen. Steve Wilks comes in. And I just want to use this time to really sort of advocate for, as a very small person on YouTube, that I think Steve Wilks is the person for this job. He is the next head coach. He should be the next head coach. I think the way he managed the end of this game, despite getting down, he was very cerebral in the final minute or two, right? I think kicking that field goal and then opting for or trying for an onside kick and then using your timeouts that you still had available to try and stop the Bucs to get the ball back, which they did successfully. I think that was actually pretty brilliantly handled. I don't think that Matt Rule would have done anything like that, clock management wise. I think just everything that he's done from a culture perspective has really, I think, manifested itself in a organization that's in a much better spot than it was in previously. I mean, the fact that we're even upset that we didn't make the playoffs, given that we started 1-5 or whatever it was with all those losses, it just felt like all hope was lost. He did a fantastic job of getting the Panthers back to where they need to be. I think he should be the next head coach. We've got one more game this season against the Saints. If nothing else, it would be great to beat them just because they're NFC South rivals and we don't want to see the Saints do well. It would be great to have that happen. And I think for Steve Wilks to conclude the season on a high note, there were a lot of great things about this game. The way it concluded, of course, was not one of them. We just happened to catch the buzzsaw of Tom Brady when he started to wake up a little bit, him and Mike Evans later in this game. And as much as I'm not a Brady fan, I got to give him credit. I mean, he does what he always does, and the Buccaneers sort of proved why they're one of those teams that once they get going, once they've got the motivation, they can bring any progress you've got as an opponent to a complete standstill. So yeah, of course I'm mad that we lost. I was downright angry during this game at a few different points in the contest, especially with the offensive line protection later in the game. For the most part, I think Darnold had a good bit of protection and was able to throw the ball, but when they got up on him late in the game, forced the fumble, and that really started to kind of put things away, that was infuriating to see. You hate to see that kind of thing happen, but I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's settled in. I think that the organization should feel good about who they have, especially at the head coaching position. Steve Wilks is the guy. He's the guy. I think he's done enough to prove that. The team seems to be behind him. He's really flipped the culture, of the team, and we're in a good spot. As frustrating as it is, again, it's good to feel something. It's good not to be numb as a Panthers fan. So, yes, I will watch the final game, even though at this point it does not matter. It's kind of a pride thing. But I think there's a lot to be hopeful about, especially with Steve Wilks having an entire, presumably, who knows? Maybe the organization and Tepper are going to decide to go a different route from him. I hope they do not do that. But if he's got a full season to work with, I think there's a lot to be excited about. And I think if he had been the coach from the start of the season, we wouldn't have been in this do or die situation that we were in this afternoon. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the way this season has essentially concluded. We do have one more game, but has pretty much concluded for the Panthers. I think there's a lot to look forward to next year, but if you're a Panthers fan, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you think Steve Wilks is the guy? Do you think that Sam Darnold is the guy? Let me know what you think, and I'll chat with you again soon.